Welcome on this Monday afternoon. On behalf of the Friday Institute, we are absolutely thrilled that you could join us for this session on Rocking It Out, teaching the whole child through innovative practices that support social emotional learning. My name is Shayla Rexroad. I am with the Friday Institute, and we are broadcasting live from our facility on the NC State campus in Raleigh, North Carolina. If you are not familiar with the Friday Institute, we like to say it is where practice, policy, and research come together in harmony. We have the wonderful honor and capacity to support K-12 education, not only across the state of North Carolina, but on a national level. So we are thrilled to see such great representation from many of our states. My particular team, we focus predominantly on researching and developing professional learning for K-12 leaders and educators. So we are constantly diving into the research, visiting schools, and really starting to look and identify what is innovation? What is this term innovation? And really more importantly, how are schools adapting instruction in order to ensure they are meeting the needs of the whole student? And Rocky River Elementary, this team of individuals that you're about to hear from, we have had the opportunity to work with. In fact, we had the opportunity to head out to their school 2 weeks ago in order to talk to some of their students, talk to some of their staff about exactly what it is that they're going to be sharing today. And we were so excited by not only the work that they're doing, but the results that they're seeing as a benefit, that we asked them to come on and share a little bit. So I'm really excited to introduce Adrian Perry, who is the principal at Rocky River, Sindel Brenneman, who is the multi-classroom leader, and Lindsay Walters, who is the sensory integration coach. If you are kind of going, what in the world is a sensory integration coach? Don't fret, we did the same thing. I don't doubt Lindsay will share a little bit about what that means and what her role is, but I think you're in for a treat. Really quickly, before I turn it over to this team of dynamic ladies, we are recording the session. So if you finish up and there's things you want to go back and take a look at, or if you have friends and colleagues that you're like, oh, they would really benefit from watching this, all of the links to the recordings will be posted back on the main agenda site, which is where you went to be able to find the link to access this session. You will also, at the conclusion of the session, we will be asking you to please go back to that main agenda and select the link next to this session to provide feedback. It is 2 questions, but it is feedback that we hope to be able to provide to the presenters. They are also really anxious to learn and grow from this work. If you have never presented virtually, it's a very different space to be in. So many of our presenters welcome any and all feedback. And lastly, we've had a lot of questions about how you will receive a certificate for possible renewal credits. At the conclusion of the conference today, following our keynote session, you will have the opportunity to complete a conference survey. If for whatever reason you're unable to join the closing keynote, we will email that out. Once you complete the survey, you will receive information on how to download your certificate. But completing the survey is going to be required in order to get that certificate. We will close out the survey on February the 27th, so it may be after the 27th before you receive your certificate information, but please know it will be coming, and we will continue to communicate that information to you along the way. Last but not least, if you have not already found the chat window, we hope that you will. There are going to be multiple opportunities that we ask you to share, resources, post questions, tell us about your own experiences with SEL. We know that this is still new territory for a lot of people. It is absolutely a space that a lot of us are growing into. So any and all opportunities that we have to share and collaborate are much appreciated. So please take advantage of the chat window. And with no further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Adrian and her teachers. So Adrian, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to let you take over control. I'll let you know when your screen is visible.
All right.
All right, you are up and running.
Okay, we are so excited to be here today. Again, I'm Adrian Perry, and thank you so much, Shayla, for the introduction. I was formerly the principal at Rocky River Elementary School, and now I'm transitioning to open a brand new elementary school here in the county. But this is just in the last recent couple weeks. So I'm gonna let Sindel and Lindsay say hello.
Hi, I'm Sindel Brenneman. I'm the multi-classroom leader. And I'm Lindsay Walters, the sensory integration coach.
So we're excited to share some of our practices with you all today in our adventure that we've had in social emotional learning over the years. So basically, we're going to start out with our why, right? That's the foundation of why we're doing what we're doing and why all of us are in education. And then we're going to go into the journey through morning meeting and sensory integration and social emotional curriculum here that we're implementing at Rocky River. As we go through, feel free to share resources, things like that into the chat window, that maybe you guys have some things that you'd like to share with the group too. So without further ado, we're going to jump on in. So in the beginning, Rocky River, this was about 5 years ago that we started really looking into what we could do to really find new and innovative ways to meet the needs of our students. We needed flexibilities to create change. We had high mental health needs of our students. We had a high number of office disciplinary referrals, student discipline, low academic proficiencies and achievement. And there was this sort of like looming black cloud over Rocky River. And, we had 4 years in the red and making growth for the very first time in those 4 years in the 2015-16. So all of these things together where we were trying to figure out what it was we needed to do to make a difference, to make an impact on our students at Rocky River. So this is our journey. So before we get started, we're going to do a quick check-in. So Shayla's going to put up a poll in just a minute, and it's going to ask you this question. So which topic are you most interested in learning about today? So we have A, morning meetings, B, sensory integration, or C, social emotional curriculum. If you'll just take a minute and go ahead and put in the check-in box what you're excited to learn about.
And ladies, I will stop the poll when it looks like about a majority of the folks have responded, and you should see the results pop up in just a minute.
Okay. So we're excited to kind of venture into what this looks like with you all. And we just wanted to get a baseline to see what maybe you guys were most interested in learning about.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop it. And I'm sharing out the results. Are you able to see them?
Yes, we sure
can.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. So it looks like we have about a tie for sensory integration and social emotional and some morning meetings. So we hope that we will fulfill what you are here to learn about as we kind of venture into each of these topics. So there we go. So we're going to start out with sensory integration, and Lindsay's going to talk to you a little bit about that.
So I'll start by telling you kind of what my job as a sensory integration coach is. So at Rocky River, we have 14 classrooms among the school that are full sensory integration, which includes sensory rotations as well as flexible seating. So I'm kind of in charge of planning those rotations and delivering them to the teachers and showing them to the students and how to properly use them. I also pull groups of students who may need that extra sensory support throughout the day. I do that daily with different students, K through 5th grade. So we use movement with learning to help increase student achievement and engagement. We train the staff on implementing sensory breaks throughout the day with students. So regardless if they are a sensory integration classroom or not, we do show them ways to incorporate the sensory into their classroom. These are just a few pictures of things that we've done. This is how we incorporate our literacy skills using some sensory stations. These students are working on balancing as well as fluency phrases. We also work on hand-eye coordination, which is a big skill that students need help in developing. So they're doing some scoop and catch skills with the ball in the cup. We also do more content integration. These students are working on balancing. You see him on the balance disc, and they are quizzing each other on the multiplication tables because that is a big push, and we really want our students fluent in that before they head to middle school. These are some pictures of rotations in action. We have students that use scooters out in the hallway, so these are all taught to the students how to use them appropriately and safely. So these students are using them across the pods in the hallway. We also have students doing spin and hop in the middle. So one student is hopping while the other is spinning on the wooden disc. And we also use things like twirl and hop, which you see a teacher modeling in the far right picture.
I think it's important to mention too, when we started this venture about 5 years ago, we started very small, right? And so we had a few classrooms that were willing to kind of jump on board and look at learning a little bit differently, right? And once we kind of got that momentum going and we're seeing data from it, it was very easily other classrooms started to jump on board wanting to do these things with sensory within their rooms.
And these are just a couple of videos we wanted to show you of sensory rotations. So the first one on the far left is in my classroom with students who are in my small sensory group.
All right.
Oh,
maybe. It went backwards. Hold on. It's going to do it. Let me try.
The students in the ball pit were pulling out 2 number cards and adding them together. That was a second grade classroom. And the student who was bouncing the balls in the hoops was working on addition and subtraction skills as well.
Six times one.
So in that video, students were using our stepping cones in their classroom to work on multiplication fluency.
And don't forget, as we go through, if you have thoughts, ahas, different things that you're thinking about as you're looking at these videos, if you want to type it into the chat, we'd love to hear what you have to say.
So we start each day with sensory rotations. If you are a sensory classroom, the teacher will do all of the rotations. It could be 12, it could be 6, it just depends on how many students are in the classroom. We like to keep the groups in pairs of 2. We rotate through a few sensory stations throughout the day, and we incorporate academic concepts, as you've seen, with reading, fluency, as well as addition, subtraction, multiplication, anything that the students have learned and need the help in reviewing. So we also try to integrate that every 20 to 30 minutes, regardless of the classroom, that students take a 3 to 6 minute sensory break. It could be dancing, it could be brain puzzles, or it could be the sensory rotations, depending on the classroom. And this is some of our data from when we began sensory. So looking at the top is some of our EOG data. So the classrooms that were sensory are in the teal, and the regular classrooms who had not implemented sensory were in the yellow. So if you take a look, there's a big difference between the sensory classroom proficiencies and the regular classroom proficiencies. And then at the bottom is our ODRs. So in 2015-16, we had 691 major office referrals. And the following year, when sensory was implemented, in the beginning, there was 334 referrals. So we saw a major dip in the referrals once the teachers started implementing the sensory into their classrooms.
So the reasons for kind of looking at this data during initial implementation is at Rocky River, pretty much most of the classrooms that we are all doing some type of sensory or movement and learning. And so there's not a clear defined difference between a sensory classroom versus a non-sensory classroom. But in the beginning, there was a very much a defined difference because you had classrooms that were moving and doing these breaks. And, we have balance beams and trampolines and, all sorts of things that the kids are involved in throughout the day. And we really feel like the data spoke for itself when you looked at just the raw comparisons of in that green and that teal color sensory classroom versus the yellow, the non-sensory. I mean, we're talking, double plus growth, in the sensory versus the regular classroom.
All right, so we are going to take about a 3-minute break to go out into breakout rooms. And I would like for you guys to talk about how you could see sensory integration being implemented into your current classroom, your school, or even your district. So think of aha moments, takeaways, or ideas that you can discuss with the breakout group.
And this will be a time that you guys can talk freely within that breakout group. I'm not sure exactly how many groups we're going to have depending on how many people that we have in a room. So Sindel and Lindsay and I will be in a room, but we may not be in your specific room. So if there's somebody willing, when you jump into the room, if no one's talking, to kind of lead it off to talk about just sensory integration, aha, takeaways, something that maybe really stuck with you. If you don't have one of us in that room, that would be that'd be really helpful. So Shayla, I think we're ready when you are.
Fantastic. So in just a minute, you are going to see a message appear on your screen inviting you to join your breakout. If you would press that button, in about 3 minutes, you will see a prompt asking you to rejoin. If you just press that, it will bring you back into the group. All right, Adrian, it looks like everybody is back from their breakout. Can you hear me? Oh, let me get you off of mute. There you go.
Yes,
You're back.
yes, I can hear you. Yes, ma'am.
All right. We
All
are
right.
seeing your screen again.
Perfect. Okay, we're so glad that that you all were able to jump in the break room. I know Sindel and I were in a break room together, and there was some really great conversation around just how do you do it? How, what does it look like? How do you fund it? I did get asked a really great question that I think that it's important that you guys hear about. Would an OT be a great person for this? And that's exactly how we started before we had Lindsay, our sensory integration coach. We had OTs that would help and come and kind of coach and show and model and talk about, the parts, the systems of the body and how you do it. So that was a great question for sure. Okay, we're going to jump right in to our next topic here, which is morning meeting. I'm going to take a look at the chat because it's I don't want to miss things that.
I think I saw a question about why every classroom is not a sensory classroom. It's due to
Yes.
the equipment is quite pricey. We kind of build on it every year when funds allow. That's why we do staff development on other ways to incorporate sensory that does not include or does not require them to purchase equipment for sensory. So all classrooms now I would label as sensory. They just maybe not have all the equipment that other rooms have.
The great thing too is that you can do this at minimal cost. I mean, those light ball catch, those the bean bags, all sorts of things. Like you could go to the dollar store, you could go to all sorts of places such as that to get things to do little small sensory breaks. You don't need all the bells and whistles. So the great thing about Rocky River is there are pretty much across all the classrooms you see sensory happening. It's just we use the term full sensory integration classroom for classrooms that have, all of the things that we've put grant money into or, different monies into for the special seating and those types of things. But people have done donors choose. Mm-hmm. They've done all sorts of things too. So, all right, I'm going to make this go down so that's not in the way. Okay, we're going to jump into morning meeting. Sindel.
So, as part of sensory, we also were thinking about what else can we do with our kids. And so building classroom community was huge for us. So we started with the morning meeting format. And so morning meeting, we have a structured block of time at the very beginning of our day, starting from our school bell rings at 8:15, and by 8:20, they should be a morning meeting. So we give a 20-minute time block. It's implemented school-wide. You get a greeting, a share activity, and then like a message or a closure is kind of the components. The greeting is huge, which you'll get to see in a video in just a minute. And then we have the time to merge the academic, the social, and emotional. And then they get motivated to address the human need to feel a sense of belonging with their classroom. And the teachers learn a whole lot about their kids, which is awesome. And they learn a lot about each other. So morning meeting is always a fun time for them.
Mm-hmm. If you'll give us just a yes or a thumbs up that you can hear. I know that there was a couple that were having difficulties hearing, just so we can make sure everybody's able to hear. Shayla, does it look like everybody is able to hear? I see a couple of yeses.
You're good. Okay. And I can hear you loud and clear. If you can't, it might just be to adjust your audio. If it is when you go into the breakouts, it might be you'll have to unmute yourself whenever you head into the breakout.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
All right. Ooh. Did it go? It went. Sorry. Okay. So before we kind of jump in into another breakout room to talk about morning meeting, we're kind of thinking maybe you might want to see this in action just a little bit. So I'm going to skip ahead for just a second. And, we're going to talk to you a little bit about our social emotional curriculum and what it looks like within morning meeting. And then we'll kind of pull it all together so you can see it together. I think that will help bring it forward.
So we got to do the Kellogg grant, the TIP Institute last year. And so it was talking about when we got there, what could you do to make your school better if you had an ideal school? And so we had brainstormed, if you could be anywhere, what would you have? What would you want to do? And so we talked about with our kids, what would be the most beneficial for them is social emotional curriculum. And so we had a team up at NC State with us, and we sat and we talked about what could we do? So we looked at our discipline data, survey data, what we have academic data, and looked at what were some specific things that our kiddos needed. And so we actually developed our own social emotional curriculum that we implement during morning meeting time, which is why they kind of go hand in hand, where we had monthly themes, some mantra. The lessons have a leading question, which you will get to see today, active engagement, which you will also see, and closure. The follow-up activities you won't get to see today because obviously they'll be from a different time, but there are follow-up activities that we have implemented within our program. And then they're developed in strands of K1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, because obviously a kindergartner is not going to do the exact same thing as a fifth grader. So we were very conscientious about that. We started the last year in March and did like kind of a prototype to kind of get an idea and get some buy-in from our staff. And so through that process, we were able to get some ideas of what worked, what didn't work. And we brought a team back together over the summer, and we had people who wanted to be a part of our team. So our team expanded from the original TIP team, and they got to be part for the entire week. And we wrote curriculum for the entire week that we implement for the entire school year this year. And of course, we do feedback sessions about once a month with our PLCs to see how things are going. And obviously the teachers now, they can say, hey, we want to add in a different lesson for our kids. Maybe they're working on something about how to be better friends with somebody in class that's happening, or maybe there's a challenging situation that they need to address immediately. So they have that autonomy to do that, but we also give them something that they can go through and look at. So if you want to show them, we can see them in action.
All right. So we have a video of one of our teachers right in action with a group of our students. So we're going to get you started before.
Good morning, everybody.
Hold on.
This is Molly. Good morning. I like how you're not afraid to fight for what you think is right. I like how you never stop believing. Good morning.
Great. Good morning, everybody. This is Gertie.
Good morning.
Gertie, I love how creative you are, and your smile and your energy is a great part of this class. Okay.
Everybody, this is RJ. Good morning, RJ. It's RJ. It's a really good friend. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is Serenity. Good morning, Serenity. Serenity, I love how you always invite people into the classroom. Thank you.
Same to you. Alana,
Being kind to others.
being kind to others. Okay. Anyone else want to share? Jonathan.
Inviting people who don't have anything, or inviting people who don't have.
Okay, so everybody being together, maybe. Celine. So not argue, find a peaceful resolution. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this last week, so let's go over it again, okay? When we talk about friendships, or even just being around other people, you can be inclusive. Okay, you can be inclusive. What does inclusive mean? RJ?
It's where you include people and you're being nice to others.
Okay.
Yes.
Who can give me an example of being inclusive on the playground? Go ahead, Zoe.
Like, if someone has nobody to play with, do you let them play with you?
Okay, very good. Good. Like them to join your group. Bill, what would you like that? Okay, good. So what about being exclusive or excluding others? What is that a good thing for a friend to do or a bad thing? Show me with your thumbs. Who can give me an example of being exclusive on the playground? Okay, give me an example of being exclusive on the playground, Jonathan.
So like, somebody's playing football or something, and then someone's like tackling someone and they're doing it too hard, so they're like, I don't want to play with you anymore. They just
Okay, and then they'd probably hurt feelings. Who can give me an example of being exclusive to others in the classroom? Molly?
like if you have to find out somebody like or saying no.
Yeah, and we hear that a lot. How do you think that makes another person feel, Zoe, when they go, okay, work with this person? They're like, oh.
It makes me feel sad because mostly not a lot of people want to play with certain people. And when that happens, it makes me feel really sad.
Okay. So good job with remembering what inclusive and exclusive means. Today we're going to apply that to teamwork. What is teamwork, Quincy? Work together for a goal, right? Okay. And that can be we're playing a game. That can be we're doing an activity in class. It can be we're planning something, all kinds of things. You're going to be in teams, not just in school, not just in sports, but the rest of your life you're going to have to work on teams, right? Okay. So how do you think those teams are going to work if they're not inclusive and you're not friendly? How do you think those teams are going to work if they're not inclusive and you're not friendly? So I need some different faces. How about Avian? How are giving more detail. Who can add to that? Who's going to elaborate? Not very good. How? Jonathan.
Someone might not want to work with them, and then the entire team would just jump up.
Okay. Good example. Anybody else? Okay. All right. So we're going to practice teamwork, and this teamwork is going to take you being inclusive. Okay. Yes, sir.
What's this black sentence?
That you don't have enough. Okay. All right. So we're going to do an activity, and we're going to use our groups. Okay. So quietly, I want group one to line up something, and you're going to work with just your team to follow these directions. Okay. You ready? I want you to get in order of your birthday month, January to December. Yep. Yeah, a minute. Guys, are y'all ready? Ready? Good job. Okay, I saw you working together. Everybody was included, speaking up, moving, doing their part. I saw some people take a leadership role, which there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're not adopting. You ready for the next one? Yeah. Okay, I want you to line up your height. Right here. Short as you talk. Short as you talk. Shortest in front. Hey, tick tock, tick tock. Ooh, I think y'all all got it. I know. Good job. Good job. Okay. All right. Miss Clay's turn. You guys did a great job of working together and teamwork. What would have happened if someone on your team, RJ, was like, this is dumb, I don't want to do it? An argument. What else good? What else could have happened if someone's like, I'm not doing this? Oh, I'm so over it. Ava, besides an argument, what else could have happened? Oh. You want to phone a friend? Noah, what do you think might have happened besides an argument if someone chose not to participate? Gabe's got a good one too. Your team would blow up? I'm going to elaborate on that.
Because they feel like he or she could drag the team down.
Yeah, you might not complete your task, right? And that hurts everyone. Okay, so teamwork's very important. Friendship and teamwork are related. It doesn't mean you have to be on the team with your friends, but you treat those people in a friendly manner, right? You show inclusiveness, you cooperate. Okay, you got it? I think you did a really good job. Now, here's the challenge. I want you to think about, how can I be inclusive? How can I be a friend? How can I cooperate in my everyday actions? When you're working in math, when you're on the playground, when you're lining up for the bus, when you're helping your family at home get ready for dinner. Okay, we can talk about it in a circle and do a great job, but the goal is that we apply it outside of this circle, right? Okay, pat on the back, you guys did a good job.
So that was a 4th grade classroom, and so this month, month of February, we're working on friendship. So friendship, and then with the upper grades, we work with teamwork. So a lot of it, they have to work on book clubs together, and they have to know how to work as a team. That's what our LED format looks at with math, and the same thing, like I said, with book clubs in ELA. So teamwork is huge, and especially for this group, this classroom especially, they needed a little bit of additional help with teamwork. And so Ms. Politis did a really great job of pulling them together that way.
A part of the process when we went through this process of designing what does social emotional curriculum at Rocky River look like, we really took into account all these data pieces and created our map per se. And we knew, based on feedback, based on discipline referrals, based on the months that different incidents were happening, we knew that February would be the time that teamwork and all that needed to come back in. And so you can kind of see we've created a curriculum map, for so to speak, with it that just goes through the different topics that our kids at Rocky River have shown through data that we need additional supports in. So what you watch Ms. Politis do was implementing our actual curriculum. Now the thing is the way that we write it, it's written to last about 1 or 2 days, like the actual lesson, to do 1 or 2 days a week. But then there are follow-up activities throughout the week. So the whole week during morning meeting, they're focusing on that topic, but there's not necessarily a scripted curriculum to do every single day of that week. There are activities that the teacher can decide, oh, I really like this idea from here. I want to try to pull this to work on some more teamwork type activities. Some of the things you'll see in the end too, what we've referenced throughout what we've talked with you about today is, the structure for morning meeting came from a book study that we did as a school on called The Morning Meeting, right? And so that's where our structure came from. And then our social emotional curriculum, that was the missing link that we had to take and really decide, how do we create a curriculum, a specific thing that all of our students are getting to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our students.
And we've gotten really great feedback from our teachers of making sure that it wasn't scripted every single day, because they can have that moment to go back, and if there was something that we needed to continue in a classroom, they could, which was nice. But it helped to give new teachers, new to our school, a structure of what this would even look like, so we weren't making them fly blind. And so we've gotten really great feedback about how that works for them.
And if you're doing morning meeting or something like that in your school, if you just share in the chat box just a little bit about, maybe what it is that you guys do, because morning meeting can happen into a variety of ways in the school. And you have to do, throughout all of this, you have to do what fits you and what fits your students at your school. And so that's why we were very adamant about tailoring a program that would work for us and for our students at Rocky River. So a little bit about the breakout discussion that we're going to do. We're going to kind of combine social, emotional, and morning meeting together. So we're going to, in just a moment, we're going to go into a breakout room and have some discussions around what do you, ahas, takeaways, ideas, how could you see this being implemented? Maybe you've got a really great idea that you guys do at your school or your district for morning meeting that you want to share as well, too. I forget anything? Okay, Shayla, I think we're ready.
All right. So again, you will be prompted to join your breakout. When you get in, you may have to unmute yourself. You will probably see the button in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen or possibly along the top. But in just a minute, you should see the option to join. All right. Adrian, I think you'll need to unmute yourself again. Let me see if I can jump in real fast and get you.
Got it.
Oh, there you go. You are back.
All right. Let me make sure. Let me put you back up here.
All right, we see your screen.
Okay, great. So I loved hearing what we had to say when we went into the breakout session, just about just thoughts and ideas of how to kind of get it started. And, we really focus on empowering teachers, right? And empowering staff. And so when somebody has an idea and they want to do something, that's how morning meetings started, that they had an idea, they wanted to do a book study, and next thing you know, morning meeting was happening across half the school. So we were able to kind of take advantage of that as a school, and decided as a school to move forward with it. And then a couple years down the road brings us to where we are now with our curriculum embedded into it. So it just kind of made sense too. Oh, it does that to me every time. Okay, so where are we now? So we showed you a little bit of data about sensory integration in the first, when we first started implementing and what that looked like. And now kind of where we're at 4.5, 5 years later. So through these innovative practices, we've increased student engagement and achievement and growth. We've met or exceeded academic growth 3 of the last 4 years. All of the sensory classrooms at school, and I'm talking about like full sensory integration classrooms, the ones that have the coach that comes in and supports and does all that, have met or exceeded growth according to EBOS for the last 4 years. And then, we serve as a model school for innovative practices across the state. Many schools across the district and across the states come and visit to kind of see what does sensory look like, what is social emotional things that are happening. And, all of our students at Rocky River participate in social emotional practices. So we're really happy with kind of how it's progressed and where our students are and just the academic growth that they've shown. So we're going to end up, I know we're at 4:45, so if you'll just quick in the chat, if you'll just type in that chat window, ABC, which topic are you most excited to take back to your classroom, school, or district? Because I'm not sure if we'll have time to get the poll out there, Shayla, right?
Yeah, I would probably have people post in the chat because there are a couple of questions.
Okay.
If we have time, I would love to be able to
Yeah.
have you address a few of the questions.
Yeah, we could sure do that. Sorry, you probably see me in the chat window now, so we just want to make sure. All right, so I see a question about during the piloting phase, how did that go with testing differences? Were there concerns with parents and stakeholders? So, we pride ourselves in making sure that we are getting active feedback and we're listening to the kids and we're listening to the staff. And if something really doesn't work, then we, go back to the drawing board and figure it out. And through that, because we were constantly getting feedback, there really wasn't a lot of pushback. We knew once we implemented March, April, May, when we brought the team back together that summer and created our curriculum, we knew the tweaks that needed to be made. And so the curriculum team together kind of looked at all the different feedback that we're given from the feedback forms and from our discipline data and tweaked it so that way it's working. And now this year, as we're implementing, we're collecting that feedback together again this summer, as well as in the meantime while we're implementing to make changes as it goes. So we didn't receive a lot of pushback at all. I mean, families are excited about morning meetings, so and kids getting exposed to different things.
Adrian, there was also a question about how the students potentially adapted during like state testing time. If this is something that they're used to being able to do, and then suddenly there's this, nope, you must sit for X number of hours or minutes. How did you kind of work through that? And were you able to provide any accommodations for those students during testing?
Yes, we talked about that in our breakout room, and Sindel did a great job explaining kind of what that looks like. So there is, if your district allows it, there is a form to fill out to apply for flexible seating during state testing. So, they're able to sit on those balls or the desk, like the stability balls or the pedal desk, and use those because of practices that they've been involved in throughout the school year. So there's different guidelines, and you have to go by what the guidelines says. But if it's in practice and your district is in support of that, there is a form to fill out. As far as breaks, though, we did a lot of work with kids throughout the year of teaching them quiet things to do when you get a break by yourself. Like maybe it's a mindful moment. Maybe I need to jump and like stand in place and jump, because you can't talk during those breaks, right? And you can't give them extra breaks, but you can give them tools to just little quiet things that they could do on their own to kind of re-engage their brains and get ready for the test.
And I also encourage the teachers, kids like to follow exactly what their teacher is doing. So if their teacher's in the front of the room during the break, not talking, but at the front and actually doing like jumping jacks or push-ups or things of that nature, the kids are likely to follow. So it was training the teachers a little bit of what are some really good ways that we can encourage kids to move during those breaks and still keep quiet.
And I see one question. I just want to make sure that I understand what it, are you seeing this at upper grade level? So like, are you talking about, Jennifer, are you talking about social emotional curriculum or sensory integration at the upper grade levels? Maybe. So, oh, maybe. Yes. Okay. So the grade that you watched was 4th grade. And so that was a 4th grade students doing it. Our 5th grade students jump right in. The difference with morning meeting in 5th grade sometimes is that kids kind of take the lead a little bit more. So they might lead some of the discussions but there's still, the curriculum is written for 4th and 5th grade. And it's around the same mantra and the same themes, but it's geared toward what 4th and 5th graders would be more age appropriate and for them. And something that I don't know that we mentioned earlier too was a part of the review process. We brought our psychologist in, our counselors, our social worker, and they did a really good thorough review of the entire curriculum to make sure everything was appropriate and using the correct words and how we're teaching kids some of the sensitive topics. So I think that is about all of the questions.
Awesome. Yes, I think you did it. And I added into the chat, if some of you are kind of wondering, oh, could this be done in middle school or even high school? I would absolutely say yes. Again, the form, the conversation, things like that may be a little different. If you are kind of looking for a school to connect with, Centennial Middle School in Wake County, they're actually connected to our building. They are also doing a lot with developing morning meetings, same type of sensory type spaces within their building. So again, if you're looking for like a middle school to reach out to, you're more than welcome to contact us at the Friday Institute and we'll get you connected, or their principal, Catherine Hutchinson, is also great about sharing.
And I mentioned it at the beginning, but I want to go ahead and mention it again that that I am no longer the principal at Rocky River Elementary School. I'm the principal at Hickory Ridge Elementary School, opening up in the county. But I'm happy to answer any questions. Rocky River, they're continuing these practices and doing, and Cindo and Lindsay are always there to answer questions too. So just to kind of, the transition is a newer transition. So just to make sure it's clear.
Fantastic. Adrian, ladies, Cindo, Lindsay, thank you so very much. Did you want to quickly talk about the books?
Sorry, just 2 seconds. So these 2 books are things that we've kind of referenced throughout when we first started sensory. The Ready Bodies, Learning Minds really kind of helped us mold what sensory looks like and different activities. Didn't have academics integrated, but it taught about different systems of the body and what to do. So that's a helpful tool. And then the morning meeting book is actually the book that we started our morning meetings out of, the structure that we use. And then now we've added our own social emotional curriculum into it. So just to make sure that we reference those 2 things.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. Adrian, if you don't mind, if you would stop sharing, I'm going to take back over sharing really quickly and do a very quick wrap up. So that we can get people hopefully on to the closing keynote. Let me get my slides back up. I apologize. Just really quickly, again, we are about to start our closing keynote at 5 o'clock with Darren Hudgens. But we do encourage you to please head back out to the main agenda in order to provide feedback to Adrienne and her team. That is also where we will be posting a link to this session for the recording. So if you want to go back and review something, if there's something that you feel like other colleagues and friends would really benefit by listening to, we hope that you will share it. And last but not least, you will see at the very bottom a link to subscribe to our newsletter here at the Friday Institute. It is a great way to kind of keep in touch and stay up to date with things that we have going on here at the Friday Institute. So we would love to have you join that distribution list. Again, thank you, Adrienne, ladies, for sharing. It was absolutely amazing. As I mentioned, I've had the opportunity to go and see this firsthand. It really is transformational what's happening with these students at Rocky River. Thank you so much for joining. I will leave this open for just a bit longer if anybody still has questions that they want to pop into the chat window for any of these ladies or resources. Otherwise, have a great afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you in Darren's keynote in just a few minutes.
Thank you for joining, everyone.